Imagine being in a plane crash. You and one other person made it, but ended up stranded in the ocean for 47 days. Would you be able to get through hunger, exposure to the elements, and even shark attacks? Well, stay tuned, because in this video you will hear the miraculous story of two men who lived to tell this tale. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on our thrilling stories and informative survival videos. This story begins during World War II in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, where one man's incredible journey of survival and resilience unfolded. His name? Louis Zamperini. Louis was a U.S. Air Force officer and a former Olympic runner. In late May of 1943, he was on a rescue mission when his B-24 plane crashed into the ocean due to mechanical problems. 8 of the 11 passengers on board instantly lost their lives, while the 9th passenger died after a month at sea. Louis and one other crew member, Russell Allen Phillips, survived the crash but found themselves adrift on a life raft in the middle of the Pacific. For a staggering 47 days, they battled the unforgiving elements of the open sea. They faced exposure, hunger, and even shark attacks. They relied on rainwater for hydration and caught fish and birds for sustenance. Now, if you find yourself in a similar situation, which hopefully not, you can also survive just like Louis and Russell did. Just keep in mind these 10 survival tactics. Tactic 1. Collect water. Did you know the average human being can last for about 3 days without water? Yeah, you heard that right, 3 days. After that, your body will be unable to function correctly and will begin to shut down. That is why knowing how to collect water is absolutely vital if you want to increase your chances of survival. There are 2 ways that you can do this. Number 1 is to catch rainwater, and number 2 is to practice desalination. If there's rain, take advantage of it by setting up a makeshift catching system. Use any available materials like a tarp, sail, or any large fabric. Then make sure that the collected water is stored in a container or any waterproof receptacle that you can find. Now, if there is no rain, you can resort to desalination methods to make the water drinkable. One option is to use a solar still, which is basically turning salt water into fresh water. Now that might sound complicated, but trust me, you can do it. Just find a container, put the salt water in it, then cover it with a piece of cloth or fabric. When the sun heats the water, it evaporates and leaves the salt behind. The evaporated water then condenses on the cover, which you can collect and use as drinking water. Tactic 2. Signal for rescue. Now that your water problems are taken care of, the next thing you should prioritize is how to create signals for potential rescuers. Remember, the ocean is big. If there's a passing ship nearby or even an aircraft, they might not be able to notice you. So to remedy this, make sure you find mirrors or any reflective materials, as they can help you catch the sunlight and create flashes that can be seen from a distance. This would increase your chances of being found and rescued. Tactic 3. Look for food. In the ocean, food is scarce, and your supplies, if you have some, will eventually run out. And of course, no human will be able to survive without food. There are 2 things that can easily solve this: fish and birds. You can catch them and then turn them into food, just like what Louis and Russell did. They survived by eating a few fish and albatrosses. You can improvise fishing hooks or nets from any materials that you can salvage. You can even use pieces of your tattered clothing as your makeshift fishing gear. Tactic 4. Ration your supplies. As we've mentioned, your supplies will eventually run out, so you have to make it last as long as possible. One of the ways you can do that is by rationing. Divide your available food into smaller portions to ensure you have enough to sustain you over an extended period. It is also a good idea if you can establish a schedule of when to consume the ration supplies. This will keep you guided and in check, ensuring that resources are not depleted too quickly. Do not, absolutely do not consume all of your food in one go, no matter how hungry you are. Tactic 5. Build a shelter. Now that you have water and food, let's talk about shelter. While you can survive without water for 3 days and without food for 3 weeks, For shelter, it is an entirely different story. You can't survive for 3 hours just swimming in an open sea, especially with the threat of sharks, intense sun, and even hypothermia. That's the 3-3-3 rule. Exposure to the elements can be just as deadly as hunger and thirst. Intense heat, cold, and predators such as sharks can put your life at risk. Louis and Russell were even attacked by sharks several times. Sharks were so close that they would only have to reach out their hands to touch them. They can even feel the tremors rubbing their backs along the bottom of the rafts they are on. Just imagine that. So as soon as possible, construct a makeshift shelter to protect you from the harsh sun and potential rain, and get out of the water as fast as you can. You don't want to swim with sharks. Now before we proceed to the next tactic, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to do so. Click subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our survival videos. Tactic 6, conserve your movement. If you want to last, conserve your energy. Reserve your physical efforts for survival tasks, such as securing water and food. Make sure you avoid overexerting yourself, especially during the heat of the day. Pace your movements and be strategic to ensure that each physical action serves a clear purpose in the context of survival. Remember, the ocean can be unforgiving, so you need all the strength you can get to weather all the challenges. Tactic 7, be resourceful. Now, if you're determined to survive, there's no room for being picky. You will need to be creative to get the materials and resources that you need. This means exploring every possible way. Whether it was repurposing clothing for shelter, using materials to construct fishing gear or nets, or finding new ways to signal for rescue, be prepared to improvise and think outside the box. Tactic 8, learn to navigate. Don't just wait to be rescued. Who knows, it might take months or even years for rescuers to find you. And if your bad luck hasn't run out yet, you might end up not being rescued at all. So, you need to find ways to return to land. If you know celestial navigation, that can be a game changer. You will be able to interpret the movement of the stars and the position of the sun, which can serve as your guide. The same goes for ocean currents and wind patterns. If you know the specific characteristics of the ocean you are in, then you can determine which direction is the nearest landmass and steer towards it. But if you are not familiar with all of these, don't worry, there are simpler techniques you can use, such as looking out for clouds and seabirds. Clouds form more commonly over land, and the presence of birds can also indicate that there is land nearby, so use them as your guide. Tactic 9, be mentally tough. There should be no room for weakness. Yes, you're put in an unfortunate situation, but you can't afford to be weak. The ocean is a harsh environment, and the physical challenges you are facing are only part of that ordeal. It's also a battle within your own mind and spirit. If you want to survive, you need to be mentally strong and resilient. Don't give in to despair, despite the hunger, the fear of the unknown, and even the constant threat of death. Keep hope alive. It can make a lot of difference. Tactic 10, teamwork. If you have other survivors with you, it can increase your chance of survival. You can pool your knowledge and skills. You can also share the responsibilities and tasks such as water collection, fishing, shelter maintenance, and lookout duty. Emotional support is also as crucial as physical assistance. Encourage each other during moments of distress to keep your spirits high. That is what Louis and Russell did. Now, these 10 survival tactics guided Louis and Russell to their incredible 47-day survival in the Pacific Ocean, from collecting water and food to mental resilience and teamwork. Their story reminds us that even in the most challenging situations, the human spirit can triumph. So if you found Louis's story as inspiring as we did, then watch our next video. His survival journey did not end when he was rescued from the ocean. He became a prisoner of war, where he faced extreme physical and psychological torture at the hands of his captors. So until then, thank you for watching.